You are listening to 600 Second Saga. Today's feature is Tilburn Leaf Oil by Stefan Bedansu. Of all the titles I have taken for myself, I always preferred entrepreneur. Of course, depending on how loosely an individual interpreted the laws, others have also referred to me as a swindler, cheat, scoundrel, or even criminal. Words could hurt. But I knew the power in words. Words were my true stock in trade. Since we'd been together for over a decade, my ship had grown to reflect its owner. The UNC brand had seen better days, with its outer skin showing scorch marks of the occasional dissatisfied customer. The fact that it was still flying at all was in no small part due to a cloaker I had installed. Cloaker, which may have been banned under the Articles of the Human Vigo Jandy Confederation, regulations which existed only to crush the entrepreneurial spirit of true visionaries. I was a force against that unnecessary universal standard. I was an enterprising entrepreneur working for the forces of capitalism. I offered a service to those in need and made sure to take care of myself along the way. Right now, the hold of the brand was loaded to the beams with bottles of Tilburn leaf oil. A decade earlier, Tilburn leaf was all the rage and was used for everything from cooking to body lotion. That was before some Vigo scientists linked the oil to increased chances of genetic disorders. Now, the hold was worse than worthless. I would have to pay to have my hold decontaminated, even if I could find a buyer for the tainted cargo. That would be the case if I went to one of those HVJ worlds, where the strict regulations would rather put a man out of business. Out in the rim colonies, the long arm of the law wasn't quite so strict. I would only need to worry about pirates at the outskirts of the colonies. And if I traveled far enough, not even the pirates would go there. The planets may not have any orbital facilities, and the ground facilities could be little more than a concrete landing pad. However, that wasn't a problem for me. The brand was equipped with an Atmos drive and could refine its own fuel from most water-based sources. That allowed me the freedom to kick about on backwater planets for months at a time, and that suited me just fine. We are now approaching unregistered world orbiting OB595, came the voice of the computer. I had been up on the bridge watching the Cobalt world approaching for the last 3 hours, and didn't need the reminder. But the computer was only following its programming. As the brand approached closer, it finally drew the attention of the automated landing beacon. Automated downport relay AE35, approaching craft, please identify yourself, came the automated voice over the comms. I flicked the comms, opening the channel. This is Captain Sebastian Groban of the UNC Brant. I reached the catalog of spoofed ident codes, picking one that I assumed the computer would accept. Plugging it into the comms panel, I added, "Sending standard Fed release clearances now." There was a slight pause as my dubious credentials were analyzed, then accepted. Landing clearance granted. Welcome, Captain Groban. As I brought the ship down, I scanned the planet for inhabitants and headed towards one of the outlying colonies. The ship's computer didn't have a name for the world, let alone the colony. As I flew overhead, I could see people coming out of their homes and businesses to see the incoming ship. For most of the local inhabitants, it might have been their first time seeing a spaceship. The Brant came to rest in a large clearing in the central square of town. As I prepared to disembark, a crowd was gathering. Opening the large clam-style loading ramp, I picked up one of the bottles of Tilburn leaf oil from one of the crates and walked out into the sun. "Greetings, traveler," one of the locals stepped forward. "I'm the chief of this village. He was a tall, imposing man with dark hair and well-worked hands. "Then it's your lucky day." I smiled broadly, looking at the chief, though projecting my voice to the crowd gathered. "This saves me the effort of seeking you out to share this offer I have." Murmurs sped through the crowd. The chief continued. "Offer? We are a simple people who can catch or grow or make anything we need. We are happy here. We have little need for your techno-wonder baubles." The chief held out his hands to show me their cracked, worn surface. I could see the proud yet slightly pained expression, and knew the speech was as much for the gathered crowd as it was for me. I smiled broadly and replied, "Of course you do." Reaching down, I took his hands in mine. The contrast of his weathered, sun-kissed hands on my pale, soft hands was very apparent to the crowd. I continued. "But what if I could help soothe away the aches and pains of the day? And what if I could make your hands soft for you to hold your woman at night?" Holding his hands with one of mine, I opened the flask of oil, pouring onto his hands and then using mine to work into his skin. While he tried to resist my actions, after I had finished, he rubbed his hands together with an appreciative look on his face. Another murmur went through the crowds, especially for the women of the crowd. After a moment, the chief looked up, his tone more subdued. "I cannot deny the wonder of your—" I smiled and finished his sentence. "Tilburn leaf oil." "Of your oil. But we have little that we can pay you with. We have some coins which we trade with other communities, and simple products which would not be of value to someone such as yourself," the chief finished, taking his hands back and rubbing them together appreciatively. I smiled even broader. "I'm sure I can come to agreements with anyone who is interested in my products." As the chief stepped back, the crowd started to come forward. Days later, my problem of the hold of Tilburn leaf oil was gone. My hold had a small variety of local goods, hides, food, spices, and locally produced materials. And my pockets had thousands of the locally minted coins, which I had learned were called plantains. "Computer, please calculate the value of the cargo in federal credits." I sat back with a smile. "Calculating. Value is 0, came the response. I bolted upright and snapped at the computer. "Explain yourself." "Plantains are only exchangeable with plantains and have no value in Federation. All of the goods in the hold have been contaminated with Tilburn leaf oil." I sat back, lost in thought. There was a way to turn this into a profit. I just had to find it. This was Tilburn leaf oil by Stefan Bedansu. More work can be found at stefanbedansu.wordpress.com. Check our show notes for links. Stefan has been a storyteller his entire life. However, he only started writing stories down in 2013. Initially encouraged by NaNoWriMo, Stefan published his first short novel in 2015 and has several other works in progress. He also assists with the 600 Second Saga podcast and encourages others to share all the stories which they keep inside. Stefan has a love of science fiction, old-school tabletop gaming, and video games. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.